Hello, everybody. This is the second part of what Dave and I started last weekend. Dave and Dan discuss, and as you see, we are Dave-less today. And I really miss him. I like bouncing things around with him and working with him, but at the last minute he couldn't make this, and there was no other time everybody could get together. So we're going to give you a few more ideas about what's going on with the proposed Dodge County 2023 budget, which I call Trick or Treat. That's that time of year, and here's the budget to fit right in, I'd say. Watch video number 1 to get a really good grasp on where the trick is with the levy and the mill rate, and, you know, there's words. Mill rate went down. Hey, let's all celebrate. Taxes are going to go down? No. You have to look at equalized value, too. So take a look at that first video. A lot of you have already, and I hope that everybody who watches these videos, one or both, will come to the public hearing on November 1st at 6 p.m. where all the supervisors are going to be in the room waiting to hear from you about what you think about this budget. So today I'm going to be presenting just a few highlights on what concerns me. There's more there. I'm not going to get into it all today. We don't have all day to talk about this, is what I say. But we're going to talk about it. Why should we be concerned? Well, the administrators, they stated that this was the best they could do. They worked hard. They pulled their hair out, sweated buckets to create a budget that would be good. And this was the best they could do without making cuts. Wow. You know, when you and I are paying our bills and we're starting to come up short, do we go to our dad and say, or our mom, or our cousin or uncle and say, hey, could you borrow me a little money? Could you give me a little money? I'm running short here. We make cuts. You have to make it work. And for some reason, Dodge County never wants to do that. They'll make it sound like they're doing it. They'll say the talk, and it'll sound good, and it might even be convincing, but back up. You have to back up and really listen to what's being said. So how about it? They refused to follow some county board policies so they could balance the budget. They increased taxes for every one of us who own real estate so they could keep the budget balanced. Here's a really interesting one. They created a new tax, and they won't say it's a new tax. They'll say it's a tax that's already possible for us. But I say, as I'll explain here, it's a new tax that they have created, and these are 3 men, the chairman of the board and our 2 administrators. Those 3 have worked together, never sought any advice from any committees, never sought any advice from the Board of Supervisors. These 3 men sat down, not all at the same time, obviously, but they were together at some time and working independently and created this budget, which I want to tell you about. I want you to tell them about once you look at it and once you hear this. So it's going to create that new tax, and what's ironic is it's going to give all county employees a 7.3% increase in wages and a 1.2% increase in benefits is what they figured. That caused a total of 8.5%. Wouldn't we all like that? I agree. We want to make the county a great place to work, but you know what? You have to be realistic and you have to be sustainable. And what's happening now with the recession looming in the future, you don't think so? You just wait. This is not good right now, what's going on. And we're planning next year's budget with all this in here. So no real cuts, but wages, benefits are totaling 49.5% of all expenses in the Dodge County budget this year. This is up from 41.7% last year. Let's look at this. This is nothing personal against anybody. This is called numbers and staying solvent without taxing our citizens more and more when things are going to be tougher than they are now, the way it looks. So the budget is concerning. Come to the public hearing November 1st, 6 p.m. and call your supervisor. Everybody out there in Dodge County has a supervisor that's going to be sitting in that room. Hopefully some don't come. But call your supervisor after you listen to this, look at the budget, consider things, call them and let them know the mill rate's down, but taxes are going up. Don't let them fool you with the mill rate being dropped. Now, just a few concerns, maybe 3 concerns here about the budget we're going to run past you real quick. The new tax that I talked about has an old name. It's called debt tax levy. It is legitimate, but it's not designed to be used with old debt. A debt tax levy is used when the board decides we have to borrow X number of dollars. And we really can't afford to find a place in the budget to pay for this over the next 10 years or 15 or whatever it's designed to run out in. So they create another levy, another pull from the taxpayers' pocketbooks to cover specifically that new debt they're taking out. That's what it is designed for. Now, here's some more information about the levies this year. There's 2 levies that they're proposing, an operational tax levy and the debt tax levy. The operational tax levy is one we always have. It's the main levy. It's the one that they use to pull money as taxes, real estate taxes, to the Dodge County government to run day-to-day operations. Operational tax levy. Now this year, because of how they figure operational tax levies, you use the mill rate to determine the end number. The mill rate is only allowed to go up a certain amount every year depending on many other things. There's an equation. I'm not going to get into that. But what happened this year is they raised the mill rate to maximum so that they could get maximum levy, operational tax levy, out of all the citizens. But it wasn't enough. Even this operational tax levy increased our real estate taxes by 0.6%, a little over 0.5%. They did go up already with just that. Now with this debt tax levy added on, it bumped the levy up 6% more than last year. Even though mill rate's down, taxes are going to be up if this goes through. So the tax collected to run the day-to-day operations is the operational tax levy. Now they want to also incorporate a debt tax levy, which conveniently can go right on top of the operational tax levy, even though that one is maxed out. This one is above that. That is the new tax because we didn't take out any new debt. They are taking old debt, which we had figured was going to be cash flowed out of our budget, out of the operational tax levy, and they are assigning payment of that old debt to the debt tax levy so that they can still get payment for that old debt, put it on top of the operational tax levy, and the money that was used prior to pay that debt is all of a sudden loosened up. They just found a way to get more money to help balance the budget by doing some gymnastics. They flipped the old debt into the debt tax levy, which is really designed for new debt, loosening up some payments from money. Sales tax is a big one. Loosening up some sales tax and using that sales tax to fund operations. And here's, if you watch the video from Wednesday night, this last Wednesday night, I believe it was the 26th, I'm guessing. Anyhow, there was a meeting that the supervisors had with the administrator and department heads just about this budget. And you watch that and you will see some inputs too on what I am talking about. It was a long meeting, like 3.5 hours, but things were discussed and disappointments were aired, and it's interesting. I advise you to look at that too. But the chairman and the administrators raised the mill rate to max, then added the debt tax levy to the operational tax levy to even go higher and pull more money out of your pockets. Aren't you happy? You're jumping up and down, clapping your hands, right? Without making any cuts, they said. That's the problem. So, on top of that, we have a finance committee chairman who last year was very bold, saying we must tax to the max. That's the attitude that's there. Our previous administrator and our previous finance director agreed we must tax to the max. Now, that is the chairman of our finance committee. Tax to the max. And that's what they're trying to do here. That's why there's some support for this. That's why we need your involvement to start beating this down and beating it back. We don't want to be taxed to the max, especially this year. When the money's there, that's one thing. But nobody is sitting at home saying, what am I going to do with all my extra money this year? Well, let's give it to Dodge County, right? Oh, yeah. But that is what's happening there. Getting ahead on my notes here, I didn't want to miss anything. What really bothers me also is not only that the chairman and our new administrator and our highly paid part-time administrator is okay with this. This part-time administrator brought up the argument, well, last year you used tax levy to balance the budget. You used sales tax to balance the budget. So what's the big deal here? Last year it went through committee, it went through the board. It wasn't just done behind closed doors, put in a budget, and then given to the supervisors 2 weeks to go before we have to pass this. Oh, by the way, we decided we're going to use sales tax this year. That's the problem. They were too independent about this. There's no transparency, and they'll give you stories. But that's what's disappointing. No doubt about that. These old debts were decided to get paid by operations. And now they changed their tune. They want to tax you extra to pay them so they can balance their budget. So when you listen to that meeting, you'll see what is going on there. You'll listen to these supervisors. You'll hear their disappointments, their frustrations, and now you kind of sort of maybe even get an idea why. So enough of the good stories. We talked about the sales tax policy a little bit last time. The sales tax policy was created by many of these supervisors. I wasn't there. It was in 1994, I believe, when that was created. It was to be used for repayment of debt, number one. Number two, highways and bridges. Number three, infrastructure and maintenance of infrastructure, not operations. And maybe our new administrator didn't know that. Maybe our part-time administrator wasn't aware of it. But our chairman knew very well what sales tax was for, how it was used last year, and how this year it was being abused. And he was asked point blank at Wednesday night's meeting, were you in agreement with this when this was presented to you? And he hesitated, but he knew he had to tell the truth. He said, yeah, I looked at it and I said, yeah, that's good. He took the authority that is only within the committee and board structure, and he took it all upon himself and made that call and then said, run with it. There's another problem that really needs to be dealt with. So that sales tax was never meant to fund operations. It opened the door, the way it was done, for this to happen again, but they say, well, we'll never do this again, but we're doing it this year. Okay. Decided by three men. And what it did is it took debt repayment away from sales tax and the operational tax levy and placed it in addition to the operational tax levy right on your backs without your representation okaying it. This is really unconstitutional and it is illegal in a way, but it's just policy. They say, so it's a policy. So if you break it or if you violate it, no big deal, you won't go to jail. Well, that's what they bank on. Too bad, huh? But come to that public hearing and let your desires and opinions and feelings be known to all of us there. And call your supervisor. Just a couple other highlights in the budget you can look at that I'm just running past you. Highway Department, page 183 of the budget. We're going to plan on fixing 22 miles of road this year. We know we got to fix our roads, and that's been a little contention. They always wanted to borrow money to fix roads. We beat that down. And you'll hear on the meeting Wednesday night, if you go there, how the supervisors that vote against borrowing money for roads are sort of castigated by some other supervisors. Go figure, huh? Yeah, we're going to try to work together here. But they say, oh, it was only at 1% interest, and we missed out on that. You can't get it anymore. Never is the budget of the highway committee used to fix roads. They use their budget for everything but roads, and then they try to get road repair money from other places. Obviously, you can get it from some grants, federal, state. Sales tax is always diverted to highways, but they simply don't want to just budget for road repair. They want to borrow money or who knows what. ARPA is going to be used this year, ARPA funds for some roads, and that's great, but it's not sustainable. ARPA's gone real soon. I mean, there was $17 million. It's half gone already, and everybody's just trying to spend that. If you look in the budget, what they want to spend now this year on ARPA, look at the budget. It's linked to this and the last video for sure. Look at the budget and come to the meeting. So that 22 miles of road is going to be funded by sales tax, etc., etc., etc. Also, in the highway budget, they want to buy 4 new plow trucks, 2 new foreman trucks, other smaller things, totaling to a tune of $2 million. You know how many roads that could fix? If they got by with one less truck, one less plow truck, and God forbid that the supervisors have to drive around in trucks that have a little rust on the panel somewhere, and they take them home too. We'll talk about vehicles going home every day a little bit. But if they got by with one less truck and with 2 less foreman trucks, they could save $1 million just with those 3 items. That's halfway already to get rid of that debt tax levy. But there were no cuts here in this budget so that they could keep that tax levy and get you for that money. Emergency planning, emergency management. Another one I just want to mention, page 79 on the budget. $840,000 they want to use. It's of ARPA money, but yet ARPA money can be used for roads. But they want to use this for an emergency response vehicle. This department and the sheriff say we need a new emergency response vehicle. We want one that is self-propelled, like a motorhome. And we want the sides to be able to go out to make it wider, and we want a bathroom in it. And we want it to look nicer, We need this, but we have an emergency response vehicle. It's not in one piece. I think it's a 3,500 pickup truck that's pulling a trailer that has all this stuff in. Granted, it's older. It may not be quite up to speed with every single radio frequency that they could maybe desire, but it's there. How many miles are on that truck? 9,400 miles. That's it. You know how many times it went out this year? 0. They didn't even use it. When they were going to use it, the DNR said, just stay home. We don't need this fancy vehicle. Over the last 15 to 20 years, it's been used, guess how many times? 6. 5 or 6. That's it. Over the last 15, 20 years. And they say, well, that old one's not good enough. I looked at it. There's paint on the frame of the trailer yet. That truck looks really clean. Yes, it's older. It's the 90s, I don't know which year exactly, but it's in really good shape. There isn't rust on it at all. Maybe it's starting a little bit, but it's really nice. And for something we rarely use, I think it's more than adequate. What do you think? $840,000, $850,000. Would you rather see it in that, where we use it once a year, maybe not at all, or would you rather see it go in roads, something we use every day? Those kind of decisions are in this budget that we're trying to deal with. So think about these things and let the supervisors know on November 1st. Let's see what else we have here. Talked about that. Well, let's go to the sheriff's office, the police department a little bit. Page 64 in the budget. Now you realize, because you do it, you have ownership of vehicles. You have to insure your cars or trucks. You have to put gas in them. And imagine a household that has 4 or 5 people that drive. They don't all drive somewhere at the same time, but you know what? You just think it would be nice if every person that had a license would have their own vehicle that they could consider their own and just go wherever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to, on the job here, or whenever they needed it, they had a car to drive. So you then would insure and put gas in for them and register for them all their vehicles just because. You're a nice guy? I don't know. But does that make sense when you know that all of these drivers will never all be going at the same time anywhere? That there will always be a car or 2 or 3 sitting at home because everybody doesn't have to go everywhere at the same time or anywhere at the same time. Would you still do it? Well, the patrol division. These are the officers that are out on the roads patrolling Dodge County every day, 24/7 kind of thing. Page 66 on your on the budget states that in this patrol division there are 29 deputy sheriffs. So there's 29 individuals that run the roads with cars. But, and I asked the sheriff this question Wednesday night, how many of those deputy sheriffs are patrolling the roads at any one given time, say on a Monday or Tuesday? How many are out there? He wouldn't give me a straight answer. He started rattling and rambling on, bringing in how there's investigators out there, and there's deputy sheriffs out there, and there's all kinds of people out there, and when you total everybody out there to a grand total, he thinks there's 12 to 16 cars out there at one time on a Monday, Tuesday, whatever, during the day. And I said, well, are the investigators on the patrol division? Well, no. He's not answering my question. Gaslighting is what they call it. You bring in things that seem related, but move away from the question at hand, and you never get a straight answer. And if you go on that video, you'll see I never did get a straight answer. But I did ask this. Is everybody in that patrol division, do they have their own car? He said, yes. How many people are in the patrol division? 41. There's 29 deputy sheriffs, and only 5 or 6, I betcha, are out at the same time at any given time. 5 or 6. If you have 2 shifts, that's 12 cars if you add them up. If you have 3 shifts, the third shift always was 1 car less. So you might have 15 then if you add them all up and they all had their own car, even though when first shift is out, second shift doesn't need one. When second shift is out, first shift doesn't need one. How are we going to manage our automobiles here? At the most, if you add them all up, that would be 12, 15 cars you would need for patrol division at any one single time. And we have 41 cars in patrol division. They're all licensed, they're all insured by you, they're all licensed by you, they all have gas put in by you. What a deal, huh? And they don't need them all at the same time. So I question that, and I would want you to think about that too. But that's not the whole story. Also, we have, in addition to these 29, we have 12 supervisory staff on patrol that are not regularly on the road. They also have their own car, according to Dale, on the call Wednesday night. All 41 cars are used by all the officers in the patrol. They have their own car, and they're used by them to drive home to work every day. They go to work every day with your gas, your insurance, your registration, your repairs, They pay nothing. They don't have to pay tax on using those cars to go back home to work because police are exempt from IRS tax law in that regard. So this is a freebie benefit for everybody in patrol. 41 of them. According to Dale, all 41 have cars, and they take them home. There's one individual that drives all the way to Watertown, parks the car because it can't leave Dodge County, and then takes his car to go home across the county line. Now, doesn't that make sense? Wouldn't you like for your employer to just give you a car and gas and insurance and everything it needs just so you can, even though you don't need it sometimes? That's what's happening. It's a perk that I think in this coming year we need to look at. And Dale wants to buy 10 new cars this year again to keep those cars all running well. Do we need all this inventory in vehicles and upkeep and everything? I question it. I want you to look at it. I want you to think about it. And I want you to question it too, I hope. Unless you think, yeah, the more the merrier. Hey, why not? It's one thing if they're needed all the time. But you know what? I don't think they are. So, how does that affect the numbers in the budget? Well, the sheriff foresees that this year he's going to be going over budget on fuel by $50,000. No, that's just a drop in the bucket, right? $50,000 of fuel. Yeah, price is $5 a gallon. 10,000 gallons, I mean, we all go through that, so no big deal, right? Did that keep him from trying to keep these cars from burning up all that gas? Maybe these people can't take them home every night and bring them to work every day on county tax bill. Nope, they still drive them. He's asking for $215,000 for fuel next year in the 2023 budget. That's an extra $65,000 of fuel this year coming up in 2023 over the present budget. But gonna let them drive them home. Insurance, he figures, is going to double this year on all those vehicles. Do we care? Do you care? Should I care? You know, when all these supervisors are questioning these things and trying to make cuts in the budget, it sure would be a lot easier if we had somebody or many bodies backing us up. Come to the budget hearing if you care. Now, if nobody shows up at the budget hearing, we can only assume everybody out here in Dodge County has plenty of money. They don't care if the taxes go up. They don't care how much the taxes go up. Why should we supervisors be the only ones that really care and be fighting this kind of nonsense? We need you to help us in this matter. Everybody doesn't need their own car. Now, come to the public hearing if you want the board to question this budget. Do you want to see taxes go up 6%? Should we cut expenses instead? Ask yourself these questions. What do you want Dodge County to do? Do you want less equipment purchases, or do you think we should keep on doing it like nothing's changing this year? What do you think? Should we eliminate, and here's a toughie, nobody wants to let anybody go who works for Dodge County, but there are positions that are not necessary, which were maybe necessary 10 years ago. Should we just keep them on the payroll just because we're nice? Or there's plenty of jobs out there right now. Is this the time to let some people go and maybe even find a better job out there? Because, you know, if you listen to some of these people, wages are bad and benefits are bad. This place is really going to the dogs. Well, you know what? Sorry. Why should we keep taxing the taxpayers more just to try to keep you happy? You have to want to work here too. So there's probably a better job for that kind of person out there. You don't want to be cold and cruel, but you have to be realistic. Do you want to work here or do you not? Do you want to keep getting your raises and keep taxing the people to get them? Or are you going to work with the public and make things work. See, this budget does not represent you. I don't believe it does. I don't believe this budget is best for you. I know that's true. I want a budget that's best for the taxpayer first, because we're footing the bills. Even if you get grants from the state or from the federal government, that's your tax money too. The taxpayers must come first, and everybody else in government is supposed to be your servant. So when do servants start telling the boss which way the door swings? That's realism. And yeah, they're going to bellyache. Everybody bellyaches. Nothing's good enough. You can't please everybody all the time, as we know. So come November 1st, speak to all the supervisors. Call your supervisor also. Get involved. We need you to be involved if you care, and I sure hope you care, because it's your money. It's your pocketbook too. And if they can get away with this year, Katie bar the door the next couple of years when they see what they can get away with. And come and tell us what you think. Dave, I missed you, but I hope you watch this too. I hope everybody watches this. I hope everybody who watches this comes to the meeting with their perspective. Even if it doesn't agree with mine, I still want to hear. We still want to hear what you think. So take a look at the budget. Take a look at everything that's attached with this video and the past one. Watch the last video too to get a good idea on levy valuation and mill rate. It all makes sense once you know all the facts. Thanks for watching, and we will see you Tuesday night at the budget hearing.